Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, My Loverlies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday, and we are talking about the recently departed Mr. Toby Keith. Such a lovely, lovely man. Before we get started, a very special, very warm welcome to any of those that are new to my channel. I am so incredibly happy that you are here. If you enjoy the content, I do so hope that you will mash that thumbs up button. I hope that you will subscribe if you have not already. And I hope that you will ring my bell, turn on your notifications, so that way, next time I upload a video, you can come right back here and we can hang out together again. Also, my eye makeup is already done. I used the Colourpop Heavy Petal eyeshadow palette. Such a fantastic one. One of my very favorite Colourpop releases to date. So delightful. I did make sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look if you're interested. I'll make sure I have the tags for that, as well as all of my other socials, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, listed in the description box below. Guys, if you are not following me on all my other socials, you definitely should go do that. I post fun content every single day, and if you're following me everywhere, you don't have to worry about missing a single moment of it. Also, I don't usually talk too awful much about the makeup that I'm using during True Love Tuesday, so I will make sure to list everything in the description box as well. And of course, if you have any questions about what I used or how I used it, all you have to do is leave me a comment and I will get back to you. All right, my lovelies. With all of that out of the way, let's dive in to the love story. If you've never been here for True Love Tuesday, I sit here, I do my makeup, all the while telling you an absolutely epic love story. This week we are talking about Mr. Toby Keith and his one and only Miss Tricia Lucus. If you guys see me looking over in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. Today's story is going to be short and sweet. We shouldn't be here too awful long. Either way, go ahead and sit back, relax, get comfy, get cozy, get you a big old glass of something to drink, and let's get right to it. Y'all, at heart, Mr. Toby Keith was nothing but a big old Midwestern teddy bear. There was so much about that man that was just spectacular. First and foremost, though, his career is so, I want to say, unusual because he didn't get famous until much later in life. And because of that, he spent the first majority of his life just a normal Joe. He worked in the oil fields. He found love in a bar. Like, you don't get more honky-tonk than that. Not really. And because of that, he's just, again, so relatable. On top of that, I think he is the embodiment of the fact that if you believe in yourself hard enough, if you have enough drive and determination, you really can make your dreams come true. And then that just all combined with his massive amounts of talent, I just think he really was one in a million. On top of the fact that he really was just, such a hunk. Very, very good looking man. Those sparkling blue eyes and that super mischievous little smile. He was known as one of like Honky Tonk's biggest party boys. Continuously had a red Solo cup in his hand. Always down for a good time. But that's kind of like his persona. That's what people saw. But behind the scenes, he was a devoted husband, an adoring father. Like, this man had a heart the size of Texas and was not afraid to show people his love, to show his loved ones how much he cared. An amazing, amazing father. Like I said, a devoted husband. There's so much about this man that is truly worth admiring. I am so, so sad that he is gone, but very, very happy to be able to pay just a little bit of tribute to him with today's video. As always, I will be starting at the very end and we'll work our way up to the ending. Mr. Toby Keith was born Toby Keith Cavell on July 8th, 1961. He was born in Clinton, Oklahoma, to mother Carolyn Joan and father Hubert K. Cavell Jr. He also had 2 siblings, and an older sister named Tawny, and then a younger brother named Tracy. Toby's family moved around quite a bit when he was younger. Started off living on a farm in Fort Smith, Arkansas, when he was going to elementary school, and then shortly thereafter they ended up packing up and moving to Moore, Oklahoma, which is kind of like a suburb of Oklahoma City. Now, while they lived in Fort Smith, they were much closer to Toby's grandmother, and Toby's grandmother actually was a business owner. She owned a little supper club by the name of Billy Garner's Supper Club, and at this supper club she would have entertainers and musicians, things like that. Now, while Toby was in elementary school, he would take every single summer and he would go spend it with his grandma. While he stayed with his grandma, he would do odd jobs at the supper club, just so that when his chores were done, he could sit there and listen to the musicians up on stage. This is most definitely where he found his love of country music. He would sit there after he would like bust the tables and take the trash out. And after all of his jobs were done, he would sit there and he would just watch these musicians do their thing. And he was like, man, I really, really want to do that when I grow up. Now, he got lucky. He got real lucky one day when the musicians had finished their set. And I believe that they were feeling just a little bit generous that day. And Toby had been a good boy. He had finished all of his chores. So the band that was playing invited Toby up on stage to perform with them. Now, of course, Toby was indeed prepared for this because Toby had received his first guitar at the age of 8 years old. And not only did he receive it at like basically a baby, but he taught himself how to play it. That's how much this man really did love country music. After he caught that first taste of show business, he was completely and totally hooked and knew immediately that that was what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. There was nothing quite like the feeling of being up on stage. Of course, Toby knew that he wasn't going to be famous overnight, and it definitely was something that he was going to have to work towards. And on top of that, he needed money to operate while he was in high school, right? So while he goes to high school, he plays on the high school football team. He plays defense. He is fantastic. Actually, a really, really phenomenal football player. If you guys didn't know, Toby was like 6'3", 6'4". He was a big man, 230, 240 pounds, just a big old hunk of Midwestern beef, right? So of course he's going to play football. Did really well with that. One of the best players on his team. And then after high school, he decides that he's going to skip college and he's going to go right to work. Toby started working in the oil fields in 1979, and his first job was as a derrick hand. Now, from what I can gather, a derrick hand is someone who sits on top of the drill. They report directly to the drill master, and basically what they do is kind of like threading a needle kind of thing. They guide the stands of the drill pipe into the fingers at the top of the derrick, whatever the derrick is, I'm not sure, but it sits atop the drill basically. Toby was good at what he did, on top of the fact that he was an incredibly hard worker. He really dedicated himself to his work because he really didn't have anything else going on at the moment. So he worked himself up from a derrick hand all the way up to operations manager. Now you got to think about this. This boy, he's still a boy at this point. He's 20 years old, give or take a few years. He's making $50,000 a year, right? So that is a ton of money, especially for just one guy, right? So he is living life. He is large and in charge, big dogging it all over Oklahoma. Now, of course, he's not worried about saving any of it, right? He's going out. He's going and having lavish dinners. He's drinking it all. He's not worrying about anything. The oil industry is forever. Or so he thinks. He works his way up to operations manager, making $50,000 a year. And all of a sudden, the oil industry, like the bottom, just completely and totally drops out. It's like the industry has kind of crumpled in on itself. It just wasn't sustainable, especially not at the rate with which they were digging up the oil. So all of a sudden, Toby finds himself, his hours are cut down, his paycheck isn't anywhere near what it used to be, and he needs to find a way to start making a little bit of money on the side. So what does he do? Kind of leans back on his musical longings, I guess, and decides to put together a band. Now he puts together a band named the Easy Money Band. There is such a cute story as to why he named it that. Toby and his bandmates were having a ton of trouble trying to come up with a name for the band. They couldn't all agree on one. So when they booked their first gig, they still didn't have a name. Now, fortunately for Toby and his bandmates at the time, their first gig that they ever booked was actually incredibly lucrative. So they each got, I think they got paid $1,000 for like a 2-hour set. So they go, they have an absolute blast. They're getting alcohol on the house. They're drinking, they're playing music. They're having a grand old time. After their set is done, Toby says to everybody else, well, man, if that isn't the easiest money I've ever made. And therein, the name of the group was born, and they became the Easy Money Band. Now, during this time is when Mr. Toby met his other half, Tricia Lucus. Trisha was also employed in the oil industry, as were most people in Oklahoma at that time. Now, Toby and his band are playing at a bar one night, having a great time. They very soon found out that not every gig was as lucrative as their first one was, and 99% of the time they settled for $35 each and free drinks, but I guess something is better than nothing. Now, it's on one night such as this where Toby just so happens to be playing at the bar that Trisha decides to go get a beer at. Now, Toby and his band take a little bit of a break. Toby walks up to the bar to get another round, and Trisha is just sitting pretty. She's sitting at the bar on a stool looking like a $100 bill, quite honestly. And Toby is immediately smitten. Now, one thing you can say about Mr. Toby Keith is that man has never lacked confidence a day in his life. That he knew he was hot stuff and he acted like it. So when he goes up to the bar and he sees Trisha just sitting there looking like a 5-course meal, he instantly starts hitting on her. Now, they're both very, very young. Trisha at this point is 19, while Toby is 20, so they're both still babies. And Trisha, she's got secrets. She's got secrets. She is at the bar because she just needs a little bit of a break. She's been working her hiney off, and she just needs to take a load off for just a minute. And then all of a sudden, you have this big, beefy, hunky, of a man who comes up to her and just makes her feel like the most special girl in the entire bar. Comes up to her, offers to buy her a drink. They get to talking, they get to chatting, and of course, they like fireworks absolutely immediately. So Toby asks Trisha if she would like to dance. They do. Of course, she agrees. Like, she is just having the time of her life at the moment. So she agrees. They head out to the dance floor, and they dance for hours. They dance the night away, and y'all, I believe well and truly that they fell in love that very first night. Toby said that he just knew. He just knew that she was the one. There was just something about her that was just calling to him. But Trisha, she's kind of panicking internally just a little bit because, like I said, Trisha has just a little bit of a secret. Trisha is pretty fresh out of high school, and she's pretty fresh out of a relationship as well. So Trisha had gotten pregnant with her high school sweetheart, her high school boyfriend, and she had gone on to have a daughter with him. Now, unfortunately, the minute that their daughter was born, boyfriend decided he was done. He didn't want anything to do with it, and he kind of dipped out. Now, because of that, Trisha was now a 19-year-old single mother. She was still living at home with her parents. She was working a full-time job as a secretary at a competing oil company to the one that Toby worked at. And she was terrified to tell this man, because, you know, what 20-year-old man wants to date a woman with a child, right? It's just like she was just used to men finding out and running for the hills, right? Running the other way. And this man is so special. She can feel it. She can taste it in the air. This man is different. And she is terrified. Like, she feels different. He makes her feel different. So she's terrified that the very minute this man finds out that she's got a child, he's just gonna check out, and she doesn't know what to do. But also, she doesn't want to get her heart broken. She doesn't want to fall in love with this man, and because at some point she's gonna have to tell him, right? She can't hide it forever. The fact that she has a child is, it's a pretty big deal. On top of the fact that that's her baby. She's not going to lie about having a baby. Her baby is still her number one priority. It would just be nice if she could find love and be a mom at the same time. So her and Toby, of course, after that first night, they start dating. And like I said, they absolutely hit it off. The chemistry is there. The vibes are vibing. And all of a sudden, before she knew it, they had been dating for a couple of weeks. And it was time. It was time to tell Toby what was really going on. So Toby comes and picks her up. They go out for dinner. And while they're at dinner, she sits him down and she lets him know, listen, I really enjoy spending time with you. I really, really like you. I think that we've got something going on here. But there is something that I have to tell you. I am a mom. Now, she had her daughter, whose name is Shelly, by the way. She had her daughter about a year before she had met Toby. So when she was around 18 years old, like I said, fresh out of high school. As she's telling Toby that, I'm a mom, I have a 1-year-old daughter, the father isn't in the picture. I've been raising her and supporting her on my own. I understand if you don't want to continue this, but I really, really like you. And it's just something that you should know. Now, mind you, this entire time, Trisha is thinking that the very minute Toby hears this information, he's going to ask the waiter for the check and their relationship is going to be over. I love this man to the moon and back because this man, he just takes it in stride. He was like, you know what? I love kids. I've always wanted to be a dad. Like, what man? And he's 20 years old at this point in time. What 20-year-old boy can look a woman straight in the eyes and say, you know what? I am not scared. I am not afraid to be the father of your child. And especially when that child is not, of his loins. Like, I just think it takes such a big man to raise another man's child. And not only that, but do so with love and respect. And, to raise it like it was his own, right? But Toby just completely and totally just steps up to the plate. He comes to bat for Trisha, and he comes hard. And at that point, I think that very moment when he was like, you know what, I love kids, I think that is when Trisha just locked in. She locked into this man. She gave her mind, body, heart, soul. She gave her everything to this man and devoted herself to him. He decided he was going to be there for her and her child, and she decided she was going to be there for him. Toby already knew that he loved this woman, and her baby wasn't nothing but a bonus. So y'all, they are now very firmly in family territory. They are very much a couple. They are very much a family. And Toby goes from having one mouth to feed and one person to being Toby goes from, just being one mouth to feed to being 3. He now has a wife and a daughter that he's got to take care of. And like I said, the oil industry that was once booming in Oklahoma is now dwindling down to nothing. And very shortly thereafter, Toby finds himself without a paycheck. Like, he gets laid off from the fields. Like, there's no work left, and he doesn't know what else to do. He went from being this kind of like big dog, big shot who was making $50,000 a year to not knowing where his next meal was going to come from. And he was in a little bit of shock. Now, Toby, again, he's got a high school education. He doesn't really have a lot of skills to kind of fall back on, but he does know how to play football. He does remember that he was a pretty stellar athlete. He does remember that he was a pretty stellar athlete when he was in high school. And one day, as he's going through the newspaper, he sees an ad for football tryouts, for the semi-pro football team, the Oklahoma Drillers. Now, in the same vein, not only is the semi-pro team having tryouts, but the actual pro team for Oklahoma is having tryouts as well. I believe it's the Oklahoma Outlaws. So Toby's like, you know what? I'm big, I'm strong, I'm young, I'm healthy. The worst they can do is tell me no. So Toby goes and he tries out for both the semi-pro and professional teams. Now, while he did not make the roster for the professional team, he got a call back for the semi-pro team, and he is all up on it like white on rice. He goes in for the second round of tryouts, and, you know, they pick him. They put him on the roster, and he becomes the defensive end for the Oklahoma City Drillers. Now, while the paycheck for being on a semi-pro team isn't awful, it's definitely not like luxurious or fabulous in any way. Like, he's not rolling in the dough, but they're comfortable. They're no longer struggling to eat. They're no longer struggling to pay their bills, so they can breathe and kind of just relax just a little bit. However, Toby is absolutely killing himself. And during this entire time, he's still doing gigs with his band because he refuses to give up on his music. And at this point, Toby's just kind of burning his candle at both ends. So he's on the football team, and basically that's too much. Basically, he's on call 24/7. So that means even if he has got a gig and he's been paid to perform somewhere, if his coach calls him and says, yo man, we got a surprise practice, or you got to come into the office, Toby had to drop whatever he was doing and he had to leave. And that was a little bit disastrous for his music career. I mean, because, you know, even if he was in the middle of a set, he had to pack his guitar and he had to skedaddle. However, Toby also knew that this was how he was able to pay his bills. Like, this was how he was being able to take care of his family, especially at a point in time where work was so difficult to find. So he basically just had to suck it up. He just had to suck it up and do whatever he could. I mean, he basically had to put his dreams on the back burner for a little bit just so he could focus on just getting by. So that's what he did. For 2 straight years, Toby once again put his dreams on the back burner, and he just worked. He worked his hiney off. During the day, he was on the field, he was practicing, he was playing, he was giving it his all. And then at night is when he got to kind of live his dream just a little bit. And he was going to gigs, and he was playing his guitar, and he was singing into the microphone. And those were his moments of joy. Those moments were what made everything else worth it. And it just got to be too much eventually. Like, the football field was really just tearing his body up. His body was starting to protest. He's getting a little bit older at this point, and just football in general is just so hard on your body anyway. And while he enjoyed the game, he was good at it. It's not where his heart was at. Now, one of the biggest things for Toby was that nobody believed in him. None of Toby's friends, none of his family, nobody ever really thought that his music career was going to amount to anything. Everybody just kind of told him, keep his head down, go to work. This is your life. Like, you need to quit, like, get your head out of the clouds. A music career is never going to happen. You're already getting too old for it. You just need to focus on your family and your job. That should be your joy in life. And Toby just refused. He refused flat out to give up on his dream. So he makes a deal with himself, and he tells himself, he says, if I haven't signed a record deal by the time I'm 30, I'll give up. I'll just give up. I will just move on with my life. I will realize that a music career really just isn't going to happen, and I'll just kind of come back to reality a little bit, I guess. But at the same time, if he's going to do that, then he really needs to give his music career like the best chance he possibly can. And he knows that being in Oklahoma it's not going to make his dreams come true. The location isn't right. The music scene isn't big enough. There aren't people there that could discover him. Like, he can't make it happen where he's at. And he realizes that the only way he's actually going to be able to maybe give this a shot is if he packs his bags and moves somewhere where music is just a little bit bigger, namely Nashville, Tennessee. But you got to remember, it's not just Toby anymore. He's also got to worry about Trisha, and he's got to worry about her daughter, Shelly. So Toby goes up to Trisha, and he tells her, he was like, baby, you know, I love you, and I'm working hard, trying to make sure that we're okay. But I really, really, really want to follow my dreams. I really want to be a musician. And I know that the only way I'm going to have any shot at making it happen is if we pack up and if we move to Nashville. He was like, I need you to come with me. I need your support. I'm going, and I need you to come with me. So at this point, Trisha has a decision to make. Does she stand by her man? Does she do everything that she can to help him accomplish her dreams, or does she bail? Everyone around Trisha kept telling her, you need to leave him. He's never going to amount to anything. He lives with his head in the clouds. He's nothing but a dreamer. He's not going to be stable. He's not going to provide you a life. Like, you need to either make him give up that dream and go get a real job, or you need to leave. And Trisha, y'all, like I already told you, she is in. Trisha is all in with this man. There is nothing. Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no ocean deep enough, baby. She is here for Mr. Toby, and she's not going anywhere. So, of course, the very minute Toby comes up to her and is like, baby, I want to do this. I want to chase my dream. Trisha does nothing but everything she can to make sure that she can help this man achieve his dreams. Trisha never once doubted this man. She was his sole support. She was his sole cheerleader. Like, Trisha, her faith and her belief in Toby never wavered, not one single time. She's like, you know what, baby? I'm with you. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. When I tell you, Mr. Keith dropped down on one knee and proposed to that woman so freaking fast. He was like, all right, we're going to go, but you're going to be my wife when we get there. They got married on March 24th, 1984, in a very small, very quiet wedding ceremony before they packed their bags and moved to Nashville. When they get to Nashville, Trisha immediately gets a job as well. She immediately starts to try and help take a little bit of the load off of Toby so he has more time to follow his dreams. Now, Toby works during the day, and then at night he takes his guitar and he kind of walks the strip just playing and hoping that the right person is going to be at the right place at the right time and that he's going to get discovered. Another little tidbit is right after they got married, Toby officially adopted Trisha's daughter, Shelly. So he became her legal guardian as well, which I thought was just freaking remarkable, right? Because he didn't need to do that. Like, that wasn't a necessary thing. And I think that just goes to show his dedication and devotion to both of them. The fact that he was willing to to be Shelly's father. Guys, it's so rare. It is so rare to find a man who is willing to step into a position where he's having to raise someone else's child. It is really, really difficult to find a man, both A, with the heart big enough to do so, and B, with this sense of responsibility and dedication to actually be able to follow through. Like, it's such a rare thing. And to know that Toby absolutely didn't even freaking hesitate to step into the fatherly role for that little girl, and not only that, but treat her as if she was absolutely his own. I just have so much respect for him for that. So he adopts Shelly. They get to Nashville. Trisha gets a job trying to help him as much as she can. Toby is working during the day. He's walking the strip at night. And it just kind of like goes on and goes on and goes on. And there was all this hope when they first got to Nashville. Like, all they needed to do was change their location, and then something was going to give, right? His big break was freaking coming. And after months and months, it eventually turns into years of doing this. And Toby is starting to lose hope. Like, he made that deal with himself that if he didn't get a record signed or a deal signed by the time he was 30, he was going to give up. And y'all, his 30th birthday comes and goes, and still nothing. Now, throughout this time, they are definitely struggling. Guys, they're working their fingers to the bone, trying to keep the lights on and food on the table. But even though the struggle was very, very real, the love never left. And because of that, they ended up having 2 more children. So their first child was a daughter. She goes by Crystal Keith. And then 12 years later, after things got a bunch better, they ended up having a son named Stellan Covell. Now, just as Toby is starting to think that it's just not worth it, it's time to really kind of like settle in to the fact that it's never going to happen for him, light appears at the end of the tunnel. So while Toby hasn't seen any massive success, yet, he does have fans. Like, there are people out there who really, really stan for him and his music. One of them being a flight attendant. And this flight attendant is really what makes it, she is the person responsible for making Toby's dreams come true. So in a last ditch effort to really kind of like make something happen, Toby saves and scrimps enough money to record a demo. He records a demo, he puts it on cassettes, and he passes out the tapes to every music studio in town. Literally walks around, takes days, and goes to every single music studio, every place that he could possibly go to. He goes and he drops off a tape. And y'all, not a single freaking person calls him back. Not a single person is interested. And at this point, Toby's done. He's done. He's given up. He's like, you know what? It's just not going to happen. It wasn't meant to be. I guess it is time to just hang up my guitar. However, his fans didn't quite feel the same way. Well, this one fan in particular. So this female fan who happens to be a flight attendant, one day she's on a flight and she goes out into first class and she sees none other than Harold Shedd, he works for Mercury Records. She walks into first class and who does she see? None other than Harold Shedd. Now, Harold Shedd is an executive for Mercury Records, and this flight attendant instantly knows that if she can just get this man to listen to Toby's tape, good things are going to happen. So the flight attendant walks up to Harold. She has Toby's tape in her hand and she says, excuse me, sir, I know this probably happens to you all the time. I know people probably give you tapes, continuously, but there's this one guy based out of Nashville, Tennessee. He plays the guitar, he sings, and his voice it's really incredible. I have his demo right here. You've got nothing better to do right now. You're stuck on an airplane. Will you just give it a listen? To Harold's credit, he's not a butt to her. He takes the tape from her, and you know what? She's right. He's got nothing better to do, so he pops it in and he listens to it. Y'all, this man instantly is like, why doesn't he have an album out already? Like, this man is incredible. However, Harold still needs to figure out, he needs to suss out the situation. Like, is this really what this man sounds like? How does he sound live? Is there talent? Is there charisma? Does he have the it factor? So Harold starts to kind of like look into who is this Toby Keith character. He calls Toby up and they make an appointment to kind of discuss some business, right? Harold's one caveat is that he wants to see Toby sing live before he does anything. So they make an appointment basically, and Toby has a gig booked at a bar. Harold shows up, goes to Toby's show, listens to him sing one song, whips out the freaking recording contract, and the rest is basically history. That was all it took, y'all. All it took was the right person to hear Toby sing one freaking song, and everything that Toby had been working for 30 plus years came to freaking fruition. Y'all, when I tell you the elation, the pure joy that this man must have felt when he was presented his very first recording contract, it must have been a literal over the moon moment. You got to think about the fact that this man, over much trial and tribulation, everybody in the world has told him that it was never going to happen. Yet this man never gave up. He never gave up on his dream. What is the word that I am looking for? The validation he must have felt at that point in time. Like, he had believed in himself for so hard and for so long, and to finally achieve the one thing he wanted more than anything else in the world, it must have been like, I call it a God is real kind of moment. Like, it just must have been it was the culmination of everything he had worked for his entire life up until that point. Life for Toby and Trisha changed so quickly after that. They very quickly, they no longer, y'all, they were eaten. They went from eating freaking, like most of us eat nowadays, ramen and freaking Ritz crackers, right? To like champagne wishes and caviar dreams. Like his dreams had come true. And y'all, I really couldn't think of somebody who really deserved it more than he did. Y'all, and you know, if I could have just been a fly on the wall to listen to that man's phone calls when he called his parents and his friends and said, you know what, you know, that dream you guys said I would never achieve, you know, that thing I said I was destined for that none of you believed in. Well, I did it. I did it. I got a contract, and I'm gonna be a country music star. Now, Toby's debut single, Should Have Been a Cowboy. Y'all, tell me you guys remember that one of his biggest songs still to date. I think it was certified like triple platinum, something like that. That song still gets played at honky tonks. I mean, it's still big where I'm at. We're a big country music place anyway, but it still gets played on the radio all the time. It is a country classic. Should Have Been a Cowboy. It went to #1 on the country music charts, while his debut album was certified platinum. Y'all, what a validating way to just kind of like break it to the world, right? His very first album goes certified platinum. It's kind of insane. Over the course of his career, Toby has had 42 top 10 hits. He's had 32 #1 hits and over 40 million albums sold. Especially for someone who started their career so late in life, it was so epic. Y'all, on top of that, Toby, both of his children, all 3 of his children, and his wife, he was with his wife for, I want to say, almost 40 years. Like, that was a really, really long time. Never any rumors of infidelity, no breakups, no drama. Like, there was nothing. And I looked. There is no dirt on this couple at all whatsoever. For someone who was so incredibly famous, they had such a normal life. Their children grew up to be beautifully well-adjusted, giving, kind, young human beings as well. And as for Trisha, she very much enjoyed just kind of like being in the background. She was partially his manager, partially his business partner. She was in charge of managing all of the non-music related business ventures. After Toby came out with that song, I Love This Bar, do you guys remember that one? Very, very good song. He actually ended up opening a chain of restaurants called I Love This Bar and Grill. He also has a liquor distillery. I think it's called Wild Shot Distillery. He definitely hedged his bets and didn't just focus on the music industry, which I think is super, super smart. Y'all, Trisha, just in and of her own right, her net worth is like over $10 million. So she's definitely doing something right. Guys, I wish that today's video, I could sit here and say that they are still happy, still living together, and, you know, they're going to have 20 more anniversaries. Unfortunately, Toby, he ended up passing heartbreakingly. He passed on February 5th of this year, and if you haven't heard his song, Let the Old Man In, I think his last performance was at the CMT, I think it was the CMT Awards, the Country Music Awards, and he sang, and he looked so different. Like, I was used to him. It reminded me a lot of the way my dad looked before he passed. My dad died of cancer last year, and cancer sucks. It just eats away at a person, and it whittles them down to nothing. And Toby, who had been this big, like, giant, big old teddy bear of a man his entire life, little bit on the chubby side, but that's so sexy anyway. He was just so thin, and you could tell that he wasn't healthy. Still handsome as the day is long, though. But y'all, he walked up to that microphone, and he just absolutely just... If you haven't seen it, definitely go check out his last performance. He sang Let the Old Man In. Absolutely heartbreaking, especially now that you know he was sick and he's not here anymore. I just feel like it's a little bit prophetic. Anyway, I think like foretold, like he knew it was coming. Of course, at that point, he did know he was sick and things like that, but it was absolutely heartbreaking. And then when I found out he had passed on, I was just like, oh, because he reminded me so much of my dad in the first place. same build, same blonde hair, blue eyes, that kind of thing. Just, it was really, really difficult. I felt like my dad had like passed a little bit again. Just like, oh, it hit me so hard. Anyway, I hope that I wish his children and his wife the best. I know that it is absolutely heart-rendering to have to deal with someone passing like that, but I hope that they can find peace and comfort in you know, his lasting legacy, because he did leave a legacy. He was an absolute icon in the country music world, and he will never ever be forgotten. He is survived by his 3 children, his wife, and also 3 grandchildren. So there's that. There's little Tobys running around the world still. Guys, that is it for today's video. I love you so very much. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. I know today's ending was a little bit sad, but I definitely think we should focus on the joy that Toby brought to the entire world for such a very long time. This is today's finished look. Do we like it? Do we love it? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up before you leave. I'd really appreciate it. As always, no filters, no fancy lighting. It is just me sitting in front of my camera, playing with some makeup, telling you guys an epic love story. Hoping you guys are enjoying what I'm doing. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.